Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Appropriate Productions, the high-resolution, low-brow, apolitically correct freedom of speech art company. Here we do the second part of the Don Quixote review. Hope you enjoy. And here we have part 2 of Don Quixote. We pick up Don Quixote trapped. We're following a conversation of his captors. This is an old conversation. They got caught up in an old idea, which is that the worst thing that can happen to any artist is an audience. Within an audience, an artist such as Van Gogh is free to create whatever inspiration flows through him. Mozart has complained, or I guess he had complained, I guess he isn't doing it much lately, that he had to compose a lot of pieces he didn't like for lords or whoever, that he thought weren't great, but it's what he thought it was like pop music at the time. And his lords had poor taste, and he was forced to write this crap for him. And so in a way, having an audience sort of chains an artist. They're not free to create as they would have otherwise. But then they also mention that without the reader, there is also no book. Without an audience, there's no point to an artist. Van Gogh is only Van Gogh as we know him, right? He's only a huge part to the artistic movement, I guess you could call it, towards art history and just what we know of art and beauty today, because we eventually found his artwork. Even if he couldn't sell anything at the time, we eventually got a hold of that great stash of stuff. So they're explaining this back and forth, and Don Quixote here explains that the debate is flawed, that they have little understanding of adventure and where it resides. It's a place between reader and book. That's where Don Quixote tilts his lance. This is kind of fun. Sancho pipes in for the first time. "You tell him, Your Grace. Did a writer invent the enchantment that befell me in the night? Does it exist in a book? No, gentlemen, adventure is truth." And they think he's insane. Not unfairly. He comes up with a plan to escape. They're going to do some sneaky bathroom tricks. The old stuff you see when police have captured a guy and he pretends to have to go to the bathroom, sneaks out the window. And here's some epic early storytelling twists. This guy in the cage is the writer. He's the author. And he's calling for Sancho to come closer. He wants to tell him something. "What are you doing in there? What are you in there for?" "I'm not in here," he says. "I'm out here. You are in there. Your brain is more riddled than my master's. You think you better stay out there. I think you better stay out there." And he gives him this script. He says, "What is this?" He says, "It's the end of the story." And Sancho says, "I can't read." "I know, it's safe in your hands." This is epic. This is Ferris Bueller. Fucking Ryan Reynolds has nothing on this stuff. This is some classic stuff. This is from 300 years ago, I think. I always get the date wrong. I get it mixed up with other books. It's amazing how many lines this book just leapt right over. Forget cross, just jumped past casually. It's a great comedy and twisted in its insight into human behavior. So here he's taken a tinkle tinkle and another tinkle tinkle, also tinkles. He sees this group of clergy with a statue of a woman, and he decides it's obviously these discourteous knights have kidnapped a princess. Is he talking about the idol, Virgin Mary? She may be idle, but she will not be a virgin for long in the hands of this rabble. Like, it's such, it's beautiful, perfect, fresh nonsense. It's wonderful. And he gets his ass kicked again. He gets his ass kicked so often. And then as he's recovering, Sancho's wife is giving him shit for running around accomplishing nothing, thinking he's going to wind up with an island to himself. She thinks it's a fool. And this is the end of book 1. You may be thinking, it would have made more sense to end part 1 of the video with book 1. Yeah, that's all we got. Yeah, you'd be right if you asked that. But this is a silly story, so we're going to cover it in silly ways. So chapter 1 of book 2, I got nothing else. Frankly, I got nothing else. Chapter 1 starts up, and the family, Don Quixote's family, is trying to figure out how to pull his mess together. He's still crazy. He's back at home. He's physically recovered, but he's insistent that he's this knight. He has to go back out and do errands and save damsels and such. And his Sancho won't go away. His Sancho, in fact, has found some guy who's like a traveling book salesman. It has to meet this now famous Don Quixote. Because as it turns out, Don Quixote is one of the most famous stories in all of Spain. He's explaining all of the places that his stories have traveled to, and how my adventure has been received in these far-off lands. He explains the smiles at your escapades and marvels at the books. And then sort of slips out a savvy awareness of what comics can really do. Of course, Don Quixote takes wild offense. Comedy. This is not a comedy. This is some serious knight gallantry here. And like, such wonderful nonsense. The guy, the book salesman or whatever he is, he picks up this, he's like, well, if this is such a serious book, then how do you explain the mule? The mule shows up on whatever, page 96 and disappears, and then comes back on 119, or no, shows up at 96, disappears 119, comes back in 142. How dost thou explain thy inconsistent mule? And so Sancho apologizes on behalf of the donkey. They decide to go back out for part 2, only to promise to do better, be funnier, and to keep a closer eye on his donkey. And so they set out. First they meet a woman who Don Quixote is convinced must be his Dulcinea, or whatever. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name properly, actually. Dulcinea, maybe? And, yeah. She must have been transformed, because it's starting off his second quest, and so she has to be there. And if he meets a woman that isn't her, then it must be her transformed into another form. It's the only thing that makes sense. Right. So, she's unimpressed, kicks Sancho in the face, and off they go. They think, Jesus, something must have happened to this princess to make her so physically and behaviorally just mean. Something must be good. He's kind of pouting a bit here, you can see. Jesus. How cruel it is to turn a beauty into a beast. And he comes across death, or, someone playing death. Someone plays an angel, emperor, queen. This guy's playing Cupid. This guy plays a devil and then steals the donkey. This donkey is a big theme in this story. This metaphysical donkey. He gets the donkey back, and they're just sort of hanging out at night, having some dinner, when another knight and squire show up. They start hanging out. They kind of exchange stories. The squire goes to hang out with the squire, and they leave the knights to talk. And as it turns out, they both follow different maidens, which means each of them thinks the other one is prettier. Which, of course, means that one of them has to die. Or admit that the other one's the damsel is prettiest, or some nonsense. So they have to fight to the death. Knights, am I right? Well, this guy's wearing, this is cool, this guy's wearing, he's the Knight of Mirrors. His armor is made entirely of mirrors. Check this out. What a cool image, eh? Wow. think that's cool. They do battle. It's kind of unfair because this guy's got the armor of mirrors going for him. But bam! Boy, Don Quixote totally rocks it. Wins the fight, takes off. Didn't recognize him from earlier in the story. From in the book 1. He's out claiming vengeance on Don Quixote for some of his mishaps in the last story. And they come across sort of like a zoo. They just have a lion. Don Quixote challenges the lion to a fight. The lion's completely unimpressed. Don Quixote decides, well, that's going in my book of victories then, obviously. Then he comes across these two guys. And they're headed to a wedding. They're just looking for a scrap. And on the way, they got impatient and decided to stop for a fight. Right? Why not? Here is the wedding, and they kind of invite him to come along. Come and crash the wedding with us. Which I highly recommend. If you ever get a chance to crash one wedding, crash the wedding. You gotta do it at least once in your life. And check out this game. Okay, so this dude, these two are getting married, and this one guy has one thing that he can't just stand idly by. He's also in love with her. And if he can't have her, then death to himself. And he's like, right, so we can get off the wedding now, right? But his wife, or his bride-to-be, is just like, no. He says, if you were to wed me as I die, I would not think my actions so rash. What the And she goes, shh. And the priest says, Don Quixote's there. He says, if thou can save this man from damnation for wedding him, you should at least do that. And the groom's like, yo, you obviously, and she agrees, right? She's like, oh my God, I have to marry this dude. He's just killed himself in my name of my beauty or honor or something. And the groom's just like, Jesus, just get on with it. He's paid for this whole thing, and now they're... So anyway, yada, 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 I pronounce you man and wife, and boom, check out that game. Dude, it's just playing everybody. No miracle, he used this piece of pipe filled with pig's blood to fake his injury. And the wedding is a fake. She never truly agreed. And she goes, I did agree, and I do. The groom's had enough. He wants the would-be groom has had enough of the actual groom. Decides this guy's got to go. Don Quixote, our boy, is like, over my dead body. So this guy's right. I'm getting one of these pages. This is like the 4th page, I think, of this so far. So he's taking a beating. He's taking a beating, but he's back in the game. He's back in it. Our boy Don Quixote, and they come across a well, and for some reason he decides that Jotinia, his damsel, his bride, his I don't know, like his quest or his drug or his addiction or something. Like, it's not a healthy thing. She must be in this well. So he ties himself to a rope, to a tree, jumps in the well. He's down there for quite some time. Comes back up. Explains that he had this basically a crazy trip. He doesn't think it was a trip. He finds her in the well and chases after her, only she runs away. She was dancing and weeping and pining for him. She has been transformed by this wizard, and he has to find the wizard to transform her back. It's the only way that she'll ever be free. They're going around, checking out they're in a bar. They want to see what's what, kind of do some rest while they try to find this wizard. There's a puppet show. The puppet show, there's something going on where the girl's been imprisoned by the Moors. The knight comes to save him. Sorry, her, not them, obviously. Save the Moors from the princess. Waka waka. He goes to save them, the Moors show up. And Don Quixote chops off all of their heads because he's a knight. This guy's kind of pissed off because they were attached to his finger, so he's kind of missing them right now. But Don Quixote's not having any of it. He's like, please, I made them safe. So he takes off, and then this is, so a lot of this is I'm pretty sure it's metaphysical symbol for something else, right? It's supposed to be something, I don't understand most of it. I'm just going to give you the deal of the shallow what's happening, so maybe you can figure out more of it on your own, and share it on the channel, because I'm stuck with this stuff for a lot of it. But so they take off, and they find themselves stuck in between two different armies, and the army is right. It was the sound of the two armies who would fight the war that was fought over donkey noises. Our heroes got up and followed the sounds of the drums. They tried to stop the fight from happening. And Sancho, in his altruism, says, "There's no point fighting over a bit of braying. Even I used to bray in my youth. In fact, I was quite good at it. Listen." He does little donkey noises. Like, is he taking the piss or what? They're not having this. So it's been, what, 3 pages maybe? Since the last series meeting, and here we are again. Just a fucking mugging. These guys aren't having it. To Sancho, at least, the war that was fought over donkey noises would forever be known as the war that was fought over Sancho's head. And I think that's him, right there at the bottom. Just getting worked. Just getting messed up. But, he's an optimist. Let's see what else we can find. And then this is some mean stuff. This was naughty. This is mean. So they come across this stupefyingly rich, bored couple who in no way remind me of like Hollywood or anything. And they set out to basically tease Sancho and our boy Don Quixote. They have nothing else going on with themselves, so their time or anything, I guess. And so they convince them that they're totally down with the quest story, even though they're truly not. And this guy's pissed as hell. He's sort of the clergyman. I guess he's sort of a symbol of tradition and truth. And, this is the idea of principle is a serious thing. And just to be performing it is shallow. It's... It would be sort of like in life, what in marriage would be pretending to love your spouse. It's not something you should ever take lightly. These things that this guy is doing, our boy Don is doing through madness, is bad enough. But this couple that he's supposed to be sort of seeing over their property and instilling a morality to it, and this couple just couldn't care any effing less. They couldn't care any less, and he's just exhausted. He's pissed. He's trying to do what he can to stop it, but they're too naive and bored. Sorry, they're too bored and I suppose calloused, and our heroes are just too naive. So he ends up losing the conversation at the dinner table, and they offer to give Sancho this island that he's been pursuing after, which proves that Don Quixote and Sancho haven't been doing this quest this whole time for nothing, because the incentive base for Sancho is that he would wind up with his own island if he helps out Don Quixote. So if he gets an island, then Don Quixote must be an actual knight. And some of the gains they get out of this is, for instance, they ask Don to draw a picture of his beautiful Dulcinea, and, they enjoy that. They enjoy that they let him wear his crown. The Duke let Don wear his royal crown. They teach Sancho how to go boar hunting. They're having a good time. They're having it, as you can see, they're having a pretty good time at his expense. They do this funky theater thing where they introduce Don Quixote to Satan. Yeah, they have Don sort of go through this trial of idolism. Oh, Oh, the Merlin and the... Yeah. Yeah, they're messing with the enchantment of the story of... He's got to whip himself a whole bunch of times to restore the beauty of... he's got to lash his butt 3,300 times, and then she'll be restored to her proper state. He's really grateful, you know. His squire's going to do this. Take these beatings, self-inflicted beatings on behalf of his princess. And then there's this next wave of nonsense that comes up. They find this enchanter dude. He's pretending to be an enchanter. Part of the quest to restore the beauty, see there's all these women with beards. It can't happen. This night's not going to happen. Merlin's out of hand. He's just messing with everybody's beauty. The way to save beauty is to get on this magic horse. They blindfold him so he can't see the thing, but he gets on this magical flying donkey and they fly up into space, into the stratosphere, or so they tell him. You know, to give the sense that he's flying, they puff some air in his face. And they kind of fall for it. Wait, like embarrassingly. This guy's smelling goats and stuff in the mountains and shit. Oh, hey, what's that hissing noise? On this gallant flying horse. Oh, it's an explosion. Yeah, it's an explosive thing. They're hanging out, but they get a certificate from Merlin saying that the quest has been successful. Isn't that wonderful? They did all these quests they can't remember because it was so magical. Like, our boys are truly, truly stupid and gullible. But, what? Plainly good-intentioned, altruistic, you know. It's hard to write them off, despite how much your brain wants to. Here's Don. It's been a couple pages, so Don Quixote has to get his ass kicked by a cat. He's trying to serenade somebody, and this cat's not impressed. It's not having it. They spend a lot of time screwing with him. Oh, and then they also end up bringing in Sancho's wife, on the con, or the rube. The ruse. Letters from Don Quixote to Sancho, and then Sancho to Don Quixote. They get the royal letterer, royal, I don't know, iconographer to make a special symbol for him. They've never had more fun in their entire life, these two. So he's got to go off and do some kind of final duty before he can get his island. And they trick him, beat him up a bunch, send him off down into this hole to get his goods back. And he kind of realizes, oh shit, I don't think I'm getting that island finally. It takes a while for him, but he kind of puts it together. And then he keeps his donkey with him the whole time. So the writer makes a good point, makes a strong... I think he must have gotten criticized a whole lot in book one about how he had this metaphysical donkey disappearing and showing up again. Took way more care. Today that donkey, they'd have no effort. But now the writer's almost showing off. See, I remember the donkey. It's here. It was here like this. It was over here too. He's not letting anybody have 1 ounce of doubt that this frickin' donkey has been accounted for. He had a donkey accountant and an editor when he wrote the second book. So Don has been renewed. He wants to go off and do another quest. Some lancing, some jousting, if you know what I mean. He needs his squire back. And the squire, thankfully, no longer has an island to occupy his time, so he joins up with his old knight. Here he is practicing against a post. It's not doing so well. Not doing so well. And yeah, it's some. It's not exclusively a funny story. This guy, it's this bandit. He's just casually proud of himself for his work, and decides to escort our boy Don Quixote to Barcelona, where they're going to fight in a tournament to finish off the Merlin quest. And make it through the biggest city they've ever seen. And the whole entire city laughs at the two of them. Just can't get enough. They're sort of celebrities, but not in the nice way, you know? They're not quite famous, they're like infamous, but not even for the badass way. He comes across a printing of a second book and he's amazed. Like, I'm still in the middle of the adventure and you've already got the second printing finished. That's impressive. Turns out not to be so impressed with it after all. Troubled and sullen, depressed. He's kind of picking up like, this whole night thing. It's not, it's not supposed to be this hard. It's supposed to feel more rewarding, and I'm not supposed to inspire so much laughter. And he gets challenged by this Black Knight. He's like, oh, that is it, sir. Only he loses. Finally loses his first battle. I mean, he's lost a lot of battles. He's gotten his ass kicked a lot, but in his head, he'd always won the battles. And this time there's no way around it. He loses. He refuses to speak ill of his lady's beauty, which seems to be a weird thing with a knight. You can save yourself from being murdered if you just admit that your soon-to-be murderer's maiden is prettier than your maiden. This guy says, no, we're cool, but you got to go back home and stay there for a whole year, as we agreed. It turns out to be the dude from the mirror armor, and he's not quite as, who knew victory could taste so sour? He's even got the twisty mustache and everything, Artists get it down right. If you know someone with a twisty mustache, keep your distance, Can't just be a coincidence. That symbol's been around forever. And then on the way back, they come across this more nonsense, basically. And she kind of talks straight to him. She kind of explains, he thought that some sort of power had brought her back from the dead because of his knight's history. And she's like, nah, you dumbass. This isn't, people don't come back from the dead. None of this is real. You're just a guy who's old walking around making up stories. And he's just like, Jesus. She beat the fuck out of him. Yeah, way worse than the Black Knight. That guy stole his sense of manhood, but she kicked the crap out of his sense of self, Damn. Now he's gonna go and try to do his 3,300 beatings to restore the honor. But he can't bear to watch. Don Quixote can't bear to watch his squire Sancho's whip the crap out of himself, so he's going to walk away. And Sancho very brilliantly just sort of taking care of it, dude. Finally, after 3,300 lashes against his back or tree or whatever, they're done. And Don Quixote makes his way back to the town. He's got to spend a whole year there. He tries to find one last sign of Dulciana, freed from Merlin's clutches. Never finds her or any sign of her because she was never true. When he finally gets back to the front step of his property, where he used to live before this night thing took over him, possessed him, he collapses at the front door and his family just kind of looks down. They've been, I think, more than supportive. No matter how many sneaky tricks they tried to pull to get him back, they're pretty supportive of his madness. He succumbed to a violent fever and was forced to bed, where he remained for 6 days, and even though he was pampered by his niece and housekeeper, he failed to regain his strength. God has shown me mercy, my friends. My judgment, so cast into shadow by evil books of chivalry, has returned. I now recognize their absurdity and deception. I'm about to die, my friends. I do not wish to die as a madman. I want it known that I am free of that curse now. I wish to confess my sins and make a will. And Sancho's is just falling apart. Sancho is falling apart. It's not plural. His, the Batman to his Robin, and Batman's hanging up the cape. He thinks it's all been an act of madness. And he has a lawyer come in, write out his will, and a priest, and finishes up his businesses, I guess, and then takes off. Just like that. The body of a knight lies here, so brave that to his last breath immortal glory was his care, and makes him triumph over death. His looks spread terror every hour. He strove oppression to control, nor could all hell's united power subdue or daunt his mighty soul. Nor has his death to the world deceived less than his wondrous life surprised. For if like a madman he lived, then like a wise man he died. And that's the end of Don Quixote. Thanks for watching, everybody. That was part 2 of Appropriated Productions. Part 2, of Don Quixote through Appropriated Productions. Stay apolitically correct. Stay apolitically correct, my friends. Oh, gotta end this.